Well. Now, a review of international practices has confirmed that a suitable methodology for the estimation of jobs in the solar PV sector is via the calculation of FTE jobs as based on job intensity linked to the amount of capacity installed. In other words, FTE jobs per megawatt installed. The South African solar PV value chain was decomposed into categories. A contact database was established of almost 1,000 companies working in the local solar PV sector. Companies were categorized according to the sector within which they work. So through the research, the CSIR clearly showed that the rate of growth of jobs in the solar PV sector is linked to the localization of manufacturing and the opportunity to increase the job intensity. SAPVIA has launched the first ever report detailing the impact of solar PV on South African employment numbers. We're joined now by a board member of the South African photovoltaic industry, that is PV Association, Maloba Tshehla. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much. I'm sure I've confused quite a lot of us, myself included. So let's start with the basics. What do you mean when we talk about solar PV?
Thank you very much for having me. So photovoltaic technology, solar PV as it's commonly known, is effectively changing energy from the sun into electricity. I think that's the shortest way to give that explanation.
But how does it work, and why is it important for us in this day and age, especially to measure it against full-time employment?
Yeah. So it's important in this day and age specifically because we are at a period in human history where we are moving to a low-carbon economy. And so we are moving away from energy forms and sources which effectively release greenhouse gases, which contribute to climate change. And so the move towards renewable energy is one in which we are using more sustainable forms of energy like solar PV from the sun and wind and other technologies. And so in this age where South Africa, as a key economy in the world contributing to greenhouse gases, also looks at exploiting its renewable energy sources, solar PV becomes very important in that. And the reason we've done this study around full-time equivalent FTE jobs, as you've mentioned, is that, of course, South Africa has a serious challenge around unemployment, as well as a need to ensure a just transition where people in previous economies like the mining sector need to look at opportunities going into the future as we transition to this low-carbon economy.
So, as you mentioned, the need and the importance of such studies and what we use it for. So, the research has clearly never been done before. Of course, we're in different times with regards to COVID-19, but I just want to understand further, and I'm sure people at home would want to understand this, the solar PV industry and how it relates to affordable energy, what your findings revealed.
Yeah. Yes. No, I think it's very important for the public to get a good understanding of not just how these technologies work, but what they mean for them, the South African on the ground. So for solar PV and other wind and in other energy technologies, renewable energy technologies, we are looking at the possibility over the long term as we deploy more generation capacity coming from these technologies of cleaner energy coming onto the grid as well as cheaper energy. So globally, renewable energy is becoming the cheapest form of new available generation capacity. And so for South Africans, if you look over the past 10 years where we've seen constant increases in our electricity tariffs, this is becoming an option that can curb that increase, but as well as allow people, if we look at what is called the small-scale embedded generation, where you can have a solar PV on your home rooftop or on your business, people can now start controlling their own electricity costs by deploying solar PV. So it becomes an option for not just the economy to, mitigate increasing electricity prices, but also for the individual and for the business to start reconfiguring their own economies, specifically to do with electricity and energy. So it becomes quite an important conversation in this day and age when we are now looking at reigniting the economy due to the effect of COVID, and businesses really needing to rethink how they're going to go into the future and not just grow, but also grow in a sustainable manner.
So while we talking about the future of work and the potential to create work, which industries would be in pole position to do this? What has your research told you? And does one have to be part of an established industry, or can one just be innovative enough to create opportunities themselves?
Yeah, no, I think that's a brilliant question. And there's multiple answers to it, but I'll try and be quite brief about it. The first is that there is a government-led procurement program for renewable energy, within which includes the solar PV industry. And there is an incredible array of opportunities that are available there for South Africans to participate in the construction and the development of those projects. But the other opportunity is that as we transition in what we're calling the just energy transition from this high carbon economy to a low carbon economy, there's an opportunity for other sectors to come into play. So the solar PV is one of them, and we think is a keystone industry in that we now have the opportunity to create clean energy at a very affordable price. But this energy then allows other processes to happen, such as electric vehicles. I think that's something a lot of South Africans are starting to hear about, such as green hydrogen, which globally is on the rise with multiple uses for hydrogen as a feedstock, as a fuel. And so renewable energy in South Africa, with the abundance that we have, is in a position to enable these new economies. And so when we talk about the just energy transition, we're saying we need to move from one paradigm to another. And in that shift, there are new economies that are enabled, and in them are opportunities for current businesses and future business to exist. But as SAPVIA, we are also recognizing that we need to help translate and transfer skills so that people can participate in this new industry. And so we have a program called the PV Green Card, where we are skilling young South Africans and other artisanal South Africans to be able to participate in the solar PV space specifically, whether that's at the embedded generation level on people's rooftops and car parks, or at the utility scale that is being deployed across the country.
As you've just mentioned, the just energy transition, I want to find out if, is this mainly what the report focuses on? Will it be shared with others, and will it be updated in a year's time?
Fantastic. We are definitely going to share the report. It's a publicly available document, so if anyone goes to sapvia.co.za, they should be able to find it on our website. But the focus of the study was to start first at saying, let's look at empirical data that says when we deploy solar PV and we manufacture and we develop and we construct these projects and we operate them, what are the jobs that come out of that? And then let's look at the policy mechanisms that are available. So a lot of us will know about the integrated resource plan that goes up until 2030. And the aim of the study was to say, if we have this empirical data that gives us how many jobs we create as we deploy solar PV, then we look at the policy going forward. Where can we adjust it so that we can maximize these job opportunities into the future, but also we can drill down into the solar PV value chain and figure out where are the areas for more job creation opportunities. And I think one of them is definitely in local manufacturing. And so the next step of this is going to be looking at those areas in the solar PV value chain where more jobs can come from in terms of manufacturing, as well as the rest of the value chain.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to us and sharing your thoughts on the outcome of that study. Board member of SAPVIA, which is the South African Photovoltaic Industry Association, Maloba Tshehla.